Okay. Morning everyone, Nimby here. This morning we're going to be doing up a Luven Fluorescent. Since you guys been loving the streamer so much. There we go. And we're just going to be starting off with our standard 6/0 black uni thread. This one's very similar to the one we tied yesterday. Ironically, it's almost exactly the same as one we tied yesterday, except for the comments I made on the things I would change on it, which are changed in this one. Hey Trip, good to have you in. Hey Robert, there you are. I caught your video this morning while I was waking up and getting my tea made and everything. Thanks for posting that. I don't normally have a lot of morning content to watch through, so that was cool. I like your little kit there. I think that's great. I got a similar one, but it's basically just a big old briefcase. But I like that you can take the trays out of that thing. Okay, let's see here. Alright, so we got our thread base tied in for the tail on this one. Let's try not to knock my stuff over. For tail on this one, it's just red. They have cut off that I can use. Thought I had a cut off of red. I do. Alright, so we used the top of this one for the fly yesterday, so I'm just going to use the bottom here for the tails. The fluffy bits aren't really useful for us. We're going for these nice webby bottom ones, but not too webby. So right about here. There we go. No worries, Rob. Again, I was very happy to see that. I was like, oh, Rob's up early. I didn't even think about you scheduling it, but I guess that makes perfect sense. Oh, I let go of it. Dang it. Oh, I caught it. Okay, there we go. We're good. Okay, so slight difference on this one is that it has an upturned tail. Yeah, that's cool. I kind of figured so. I mean, you're just starting out. Now, that's quite the start, to be honest with you. That's a good little kit. So be proud of it, man. That's a really good start. So we're going for just a little over the gap height on this one. In fact, I'm gonna make it just a little longer. About a gap height and a quarter, give or take. So like right there. You okay if I make some comments on it? Not that there's anything wrong with it, because you're just starting, so there's pretty much impossible to do anything wrong with it. But you know, like how you have it currently, you kind of have like all your gear in there, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with, because there's gobs of people that tie that is their kit, and that's what they tie with every day, because that's the amount of material they have. But I can tell you're going to acquire a good amount more material than what you have. I'm sorry. It'll happen. So you're going to outgrow that kit probably in pretty short order here, I would think, as you're collecting stuff. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I like that. That's what I want to see. Nice poofy tail. Alright. Yeah, so as you outgrow that, I'm sure you will in pretty short order. One thing I'd work towards with it that I think would be a great idea that would probably work well for you because you like going and tying at your shop there and with friends and other stuff is as you build it up and you actually have like maybe a second case or you have a bench area where you can start storing your stuff up. Use each one of those trays as like a fly type or like a pattern. Oh, cool. We're not getting snow, but we got the cold, and I'm kind of excited because the large lake next to us, which was open water up until just a day or two ago, it froze over finally, kind of in like one go because we had a cold snap here. We got down to -17, -18, and I think right now we're about -16 still. So it's been like 2 days of cold. And that's 16 in Canadian. And it's got that nice clear, like you can see through it like glass, like a picture frame ice. There's no snow on it or anything. It's really creepy to walk on, that's for sure. But it's several inches thick now, so I think after a day, after today being, if it stays to -16, it'll be thick enough to be safe tomorrow. So I might pop in there and have a look at it. There's already people skating and stuff on it, but I think that's a little premature, but you know, Canadians, what are you gonna do? Yeah, you got it. Yeah, so like, and not necessarily like, you'd probably want to start like that, where you're doing one for each fly type. But I was thinking more for like a mobile box, like you were saying, to take it to the shop or whatever. Because normally when you go hang out and tie some flies, you're probably tying, you know, whatever, half a dozen different patterns or so, right? So you could have one for woolly buggers, one for, you know, clouds or streamers or whatever you're tying, right? And then you could stock them up before you go, and that way you'd pull out one tray, and you got all your material for that fly you're gonna tie, or that couple flies in that one tray. I think that would be pretty sweet, because then you're not digging out like 4 or 5 trays to tie one fly. But yeah, I think that's something to work up to, because that would be super handy. Trying to level out that thread bump a bit. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going over this with some acrylic yarn, but I don't want it to be too ridgy. Alright, we'll tie in the tinsel now. Yeah, I really like the setup. Like I said, mine's just kind of one of those big aluminum camera cases, or like briefcases. But I really like the way it's set up with the drawers that you can pull out. I think that is a really cool idea, especially for travel, right? It makes it so much handier. Yeah, I'm just going off of like your personality and what you're enjoying and what you like to do. And I think like whether it exists or not, you'll probably gravitate towards that at some point, which is cool. I think that's gonna really work out well for you. But either way, yeah, I thought it was a good idea. That one cape you had looked really nice. I was kind of hoping you'd show it off a little more in the video, but the one split cape, that's like perfect for doing like Adams and stuff, and like so many other flies too. But there you go. Hey, cool. Yeah, that's that one's not my travel case, but the one I have is pretty much just like that aluminum case. It's bigger and square. It's like a big rectangle. That one just holds. It only has thread in it. That's like most of my thread, not all of it by any means, but that's where my thread lives. And I found it was like perfect for storing thread because those little fold-down compartments are exactly the height of a spool of thread. So as long as I'm storing standard thread in there anyway, it works out pretty well. I wanted to use this really bright red, so I really like how shiny it is. And it's supposed to be a fluorescent red, but I don't really have any true fluorescent red yarn that's going to yeah, I honestly I prefer buying split capes. Like the only downside to buying a split cape is you don't get the left and right feathers, which it isn't really a huge limitation, but it's it will definitely limit you a bit in some patterns that you can do. 'Cause sometimes it's better to have. You're not really going to use like an Adams cape for that kind of thing so much anymore, except for maybe the grizzly side of the Adams cape. But on certain, I wonder if I have a feather. This one's probably not. This one's probably not the best example, but you got. Really? You got that at a rummage sale? Yeah, no, I could tell it was kind of a classic cape because you don't see those. Like, you don't even really see them in the fly shops anymore. Like, I had to order mine. I got mine through, was it Risen Hackle, through Magpie Materials, through, oh, what's the dude's name? He's a really nice guy. Stefan. Stefan's from Magpie Materials. He does good stuff. Yeah. He doesn't make the capes. He cleans them up and bags them and sells them. But he has really good materials. I've been happy with pretty much everything I bought him. So anyway, I'll get this out of my head so I can continue with my other thought process. So this one here is a strung saddle hackle. A strung saddle hackle comes from the side of a saddle, not a cape. And you can see it's got a wicked curve to it. Now, most strung saddles will have a wicked curve to it because they're coming from the very side of the saddle. So in this case, this one would have came from the right side because I got the shiny side of the feather facing me. Then it's curved in the same curve that the saddle will have. So this will be on the right side of a saddle. Now, if I was tying a streamer fly where I'm going to be laying these along the side of the fly like so, I would want to have a left and a right one. So I'd take one from the left side of the saddle and one from the right side of the saddle, and these curves would transpose each other. So when I lay them together, they would work because they would follow the same curve. So that's the only time where having a split cape is really going to kind of trip you up a bit on those type of patterns. But generally speaking, the Adams cape like Rob had in the video there, you're not really going to use that for that anyway. Like, those are meant for when you're mixing your hackles and tying Adams and that kind of thing. I do need to get a feather off here, so I may as well do it while we're talking about that. So I like this cape. I really like this cape because it's super unique. You almost never see this. And I know I've shown it numerous times because I like the thing so much. So this top bit, this is a cape from where my hand is up to the top here. That is a cape. I'm trying to get it all on view for you guys. This is just a regular red rooster cape. It's got a beautiful, like, honey kind of tawny color to it. Quite like it. And it's nice size. It's only got a little bit of badgering. You can see a little bit of badgering going on in the middle. But the cool thing is when they skinned the bird, they left the saddle attached. So this is the whole bird. So when you're in the store and you're buying a saddle, this part, now that I have it flipped upside down, Yeah, this is the saddle. So this is actually attached. So when you're tying those type of flies, you'll want to take one from. Sorry, my camera's backwards here. You want to take one from one side of the cape because it's got, you can easily see the kind of wicked curves of these. So your strung hackle are going to be these ones here. Yeah, whitings are just ridiculously long. But these ones here are the feathers that you get, actually the part that's cut off here. There's a fluff that hangs on the side here, and those get cut off and those normally get turned into your strung hackles. Your nicest hackles are the ones up in the very top here. These are all, if I can get it in the frame, these are all the nice straight ones. And typically they're a little bent because of sitting in the package, but generally speaking, you'll want to take your hackle from the left side and your hackle from the right side, match them up, as best you can. They're never going to be exact. But isn't that a cool thing? So like when new people are in the fly shop and they're looking, they're like, "What's the difference between a saddle? What's the difference between a cape?" Well, this is an excellent way to explain it to people. It's the same bird. One literally is up, so this will be like where his neck attaches up here, and this would be where his tail is. And it's like the whole cape, literal whole cape of the bird. So you just don't see people processing birds like this anymore. This was a lot more common in like the 20s. Normally this is exactly how you'd process a bird in the 20s. So this one may even be that old, or it might be from someone who's been processing for that long. In either case, I need to get a nice webby I need to get a nice webby feather for the hackle. So we're gonna take one out of the middle here. And do I have one already? No, I don't. Okay. And this fly calls for a. Ooh, that's a nice one. Look at that. That one's got some like really nice dirty speckling to it. Yeah, it calls for a slightly darker one than the one we used last time. So let's use this one. That's a really unique feather. Just gonna make sure that that's not too long. No, I think we can make that work. Okay, cool. We'll use that one. We're not using it right now, but we'll get to it. But yeah, so the only downside of split capes is that I'm aware of anyway. I'm sure someone can come up with some other stuff, but the only downside I can think of for split capes is that you lose that ability to grab the matched pair, I guess, for lack of better ways to. This piece I want to tie in is a little bit on the short side. It's kind of like just enough material for me to get this done. So normally I'd be tying it in the full length of the shank here to keep the body even. But in this case, I'm going to try and get this done with what I got here on the bench. So I'm going to set this around the end here. Actually, I'm going to get my tying thread over there. And I'm going to kind of just let it wrap itself around the shank here. There you go. It'd be nice if you could get a something from like a lineage like that. There are some smaller farms actually kind of in your area there that used to do breeding for feather stock, and I'm not sure if they're still around or not. But like, those birds didn't just disappear, so their lineage might be floating around there somewhere. Because what was the one that was in your area? Was it Heckman's? Anyway, there was a couple older hackle companies that were pretty prevalent in like the 70s and 80s from your area. So maybe do some Googling, see if you can find out where they were. You might be able to pick up a chick from one of their great grandfathers from one of the local farms. Because I'm sure they all got dispersed at some point. There we go. Got some America going today. America. Can't remember, is that like Old Glory? I can't remember the name of that tune. Something like that. Yeah, and I could be completely, utterly wrong, but my brain is telling me that there was several older Hackle companies down there. Another thing you can do that I've been meaning to do when I get more chickens and stuff here, if you have local 4-H things going on. We got, I don't know if you guys call it 4-H in the States or not. We do that here. I just got to turn my music down here. But if you have local like 4-H clubs, oop, that's too much. 1 second. We'll try that. Desperation just said it. Yeah, if you have a local like 4-H club, I'm trying to lay this first couple wraps pretty flat here, and then I'll unflatten this wrap out. I want to make sure I got enough to make it all the way across. Hey, Maddie. Hopefully your little one's doing better now. It's been a bit of a go for you. I really like this red. It looks a lot better than it looks on camera. I'll give it that. Just like a really nice, bright, like Toro red. I don't want to counter wrap this so much, so I'm gonna try and keep this thickness going if I can. Really? Jeez, man, that's been a long time. Well, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I think I might actually run out here, so I'm gonna... I got a little strip I'm gonna tie in here. Yeah, kind of like my point with the 4-H thing is, one, you get, well, generally speaking, you get a better, higher quality animal because they're taken care of well, and they don't breed things that have... I'm doing well. I just ran out of material here. Trying to make this work, and it's too short, so I'm gonna tie in another little piece I got here, and we'll just finish this off. But yeah, the 4-H ones, they typically, it's a group, right? So like they typically breed out a lot of genetic problems and things like that, and yet they'll typically have a lot of stock that you're just not going to see at like your Tractor Supply or places where you just buy like regular chicks, right? So yeah, I'd check out your 4-H guys if you can. I think that'll give you some interesting options, and hopefully some healthy birds that you can breed through. Because the last thing you want to do is pick up birds that have like genetic problems that you're having to battle on top of everything else. Yeah. Like my wonderful wife said, our chickens are still old and they're still laying eggs. Good. Yeah, no, I was thinking the same. I thought for sure he was going to say he's getting better at this point. I know this looks ugly right now, but I'm hoping once I tie this off, this will work. Sorry, I'm just fighting my yarn here. Give me a second. Hey, Ruben's in. Good to have you in, Ruben. I haven't been dropping in your lives as much as I'd like to recently. I've been busy with work, and a lot of times I'm in there and I just can't talk because I'm at work and doing the work thing. But I lurk a lot. That's kind of uglier and puffier than I was hoping. Well, I think we'll make it work. It's definitely not as pretty as I was going for, but well, I'm not too worried about that little bump that's there because it's gonna get covered up with the wing, but would have liked it to look a little better than that, to be honest. But it is what it is. I'm just trying to use up this yarn. Yeah, we finally had, like I was saying, we finally had that cold snap. So I'm hoping tomorrow I'll be able to go check the lake out on my way back from dropping the kids off at school. Because it's been minus 17, minus 18, and then 16 today. So the lake kind of snap froze, and we don't get that too often. It's really cool when it happens because it's like crystal clear ice, and you can see through it, and it's like walking on a mirror. It's absolutely useless for ice fishing because the fish can see you, but it's neat looking. So I'm hoping I can go get some pictures. I already had people out there doing the whole skating and taking videos thing because it looks like you're just skating on water. I wouldn't be confident in it being safe right now, but after another day of freezing, it's probably going to be fine. It's just a really deep lake, so especially if skating, as you're skating around on it, like you could easily make a mistake and be in some really deep water. There's some spots in that lake where you're just like a few feet off the shore and it's like 300 feet deep. It's really trippy. I mean, you could still fish on it, like don't get me wrong, but I mean, obviously, you know, it's when you're ice fishing, you're fishing straight up and down, and it's like the fish can clearly see you. Right? You're not hiding at all. Well, the cool thing is you can also see the fish, so it's a 6 and a half dozen either. But I don't plan on fishing tomorrow because one, it's going to be really cold, and I'm not set up for it. So I'm just going to go down and have a look-see and see how the ice is forming, and maybe get some cool videos, and then come home before I freeze. Alright, well, she's good enough. I'm okay with that. Wraps are a little bit wonky because of that. I had to re-tie in right there and left a bit of a hollow. Yeah, tell me about it. This is the first year I can remember my whole lifetime that these lakes haven't froze over. Are they frozen over several times? They just keep melting again. Super annoying. But I mean, this time of year, I'm having the opposite problem where the ice is normally so thick that I can barely drill through it. Like when I took me and the wife out fishing, I guess 2 years ago now or so. It took me, what was it, dear, like 45 minutes or so? It took me about 45 minutes to drill one hole because I had to put the extensions on the drill, and it was, I don't know how deep it was. It was like, there was only like 2 inches to the top of my handle. And I finally broke through and was like, oh, thank God. Because I didn't think we were going to hit water. So normally our ice is like 5, 6, 7, 8 feet thick. But not this year. Not even close. It's barely thick enough to walk on. I'm doing well, mate. Hey, K-Fish Bro, good to have you in. But yeah, I'm happy we actually have some ice now. We're coming up on another warm spell again here in a few days, so this might be extremely short-lived. Sorry, my brain's shutting off here. Let's see. We need to do the hackle that we pulled out. So we get this lovely, look at this thing. This thing is like dirty and speckled. There's only a handful of these feathers on that cape that are like this, but I've always liked, I know they're technically not, you know, a sought-after type of feather in a cape, because you get these random ones in there that are just randomly speckled, but I've always liked them. I always thought they were really cool, and it makes especially for tying other flies, it just adds like a random bugginess to it that you're not going to get with really anything else. Nature has a way of making stuff like that really cool. Synthetics always have a pattern to them. Just gonna clean off all the fluff. There we go. But yeah, we'll see. I'll try and get some video for you guys, because oop, did I lose video? Why did I lose video? What happened? Huh? You guys still hear me on audio? Okay, I'm not sure what happened there, to be honest. One second, guys. I'll try and reload the camera here. What did you do? Yeah, it just literally just shut off. I'm not sure. It's got 100% battery. Dude, that's never happened to me before. Oh, and we may be back. And I didn't even do anything to it, so... Huh. Okay, one second here. I'm just going to reload this, because I don't even know what happened there. I didn't even do anything to get it back. Weird. Okay, 2 seconds. I'm going to just deactivate the camera and reset it. And we're back? Maybe? Hopefully. It looks like we're back. Sorry about that. Honestly, I don't have a clue what happened there. It was definitely on my end, though. It wasn't YouTube or anything. My camera just literally shut off. I'm not sure why. It has 100% battery. Hopefully it's not dying on me. I need you, buddy. Don't die on me. Okay, so we don't need a whole lot of this feather. This one's got a really long, or calls for a really long hackle that wraps around the front there. I'm just gonna pull off a little bit on the top side, so I get the first like wrap or so in without too much extra hackle. So we're gonna separate that so you can hopefully see there's a little bit off the one side. Yeah, that was interesting. I can't say I have camera problems very often at all. But I guess it's first time for anything. I do have a new USB cord. I wonder if that might be part of the problem. I might have to switch back to my old cable. That could be. I might have lost video through the cable. But yeah, excited to go check that lake out. Maybe get some cool videos for you guys out on the ice. Alright, I'm just gonna beef this up with a whack of thread here because I want to get this more level. There we go. I got a little bit of a taper there, but I don't think that's going to cause me any issues. Hopefully not. There we go. Yeah, we're going to do an overwing on this one. It doesn't, I have a number of recipe cards for this one, and it doesn't say what kind of hair they used. It just says white hair for the overwing. So I'm assuming it means bucktail. But I mean, bucktail and polar bear were both very common at the time this was used, so could be either. I think I'm just gonna go with bucktail though. But yeah, with most wings, you can get by with a lot of different types of. That is true. I noticed that the other time. That the flying avatars actually can grab the stars, which is kind of funny. I didn't even think that was going to be an issue or a thing. But it is. Okay, so we're going to be tying this kind of like a regular old hackle tie. And then I'm going to be sweeping it back. This hackle is so sticky, but it turns out so nice for these flies. You can see all the fibers are sticking together on it. But it makes like a really nice, it's like a soft hackle, like an upland game bird almost, for like its texture. But it still has that standout quality of like a rooster. I have no idea what kind of rooster it was, but I really enjoy tying with this hackle. Like I was saying, it's given by how the cape was preserved and tanned and everything. I think it's quite old. It could even be close to 100 years old. So, not gonna find it again. And this one has a good amount of soft hackle like this here. Now, since you probably can't find a cape like this one, there's a few substitutes I do for this to get kind of the same effect. Is you could use a pheasant rump feather and wrap it. I guarantee you she's not tolerating it as well as my wife does. Hey, anybody? You're very tolerant of my fly tying mess. Yeah. I had it in the right spot and it jumped on me, so I'm just going to redo that last wrap there. I think we'll be good. Yes, always good to have support from your other. The struggle for fly tying storage is real. Okay, got her in. So that's what we want. We want a messy kind of blob up front like that. Yeah. There we go. So if you don't have hackle like this, you could use a just a regular. I got a couple kicking around here. You could use just a regular saddle hackle, spay saddle hackle. You can use. This isn't the exact right feather, but it's right next to what the right feather would be, so it's close. And you're probably going to get this in a strung bag. But pheasant rump like this, like these nice big red, kind of reddy orange, brown pheasant rumps. If you tied this in, you'd have to tie it in and then from this side and then wrap it. It would give you like a very similar, as you can tell by the feather. You'd have to pick roughly the right size and everything, but it would give you a very similar hackle to that, and have just as much, you know, movement and life and everything to it. My wonderful, beautiful, adoring wife has come up with a interesting idea that I'm gonna try this week, where I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna just tie flies for like 8 hours. We'll do like a full tying day with a lunch break and several tea breaks. But we thought we'd give that a go because it's been a while since I've actually done a full day of tying. And I know that's you know, the everyday for Ruben and quite a few people there. And I don't expect everyone to sit around for the whole 8 hours, but I need to get back in the kind of production tying kind of groove, and that way I can do a lot of different things that I have been wanting to do that I can't really do in a little 2-hour span. Okay, so that's looking pretty much exactly the way I want that to. You know, a messy fluff of a cape up there like that. I'm just going to use my nylon brush here and knock these around a little bit. Got a few spots where it's sticking together a little more than I'd like. But all that's going to come apart once it gets wet, or once you're casting it anyway, so not going to matter with it. Just make her pretty for its close-up. There we go. Yeah, so we're going to tie this back just a hair, but that's pretty much the exact profile that I'm looking for. You want it to just be slightly sloped back like that, because you don't want to necessarily tie it as you would tie a full wet fly where it's nicely like pinned back, because the wet fly is meant to move through the water without causing as much disturbance and sink, where this one is meant to be pulled through the water, and this is supposed to disturb the water because the fish key in on that with their lateral lines. So the hackle here isn't really necessarily representing legs or, you know, any part of a fish or a insect. The hackle on these type of streamer flies for steelhead are really there to move water, like they're there to cause a disturbance. So you want it to be swept back a bit so you can still cast it, and the water will shed off of it as you're casting, or it'll get too heavy. But you still want it to be like just that, like almost cup shape is really perfect for what we're going for. So I'm really happy with that one. But yeah, it's basically there to move water. It's like a parachute. And the fish will key in on that, and they'll see the red. They'll feel more than see the water movement, because they feel that through their lateral line, which is all trout have it. It's like right along the center of the fish. I don't know any fish pictures. Everyone knows what a fish looks like. It's just right along. You literally see it. There's a line of nerves along the outside of a trout, and they use that to feel movement in the water and changes in electromagnetic field and a bunch of other stuff. So I need my bucktail, and having something push water excites that. And other than like things jumping around on the surface like a popper, that does the same thing. A lot of real predatory fish have a very well-developed lateral line. Where you won't see them as much in, yeah. It is a really cool hackle. I really enjoy that. That one turned out well. Like I said, unfortunately my yarn ran out and I have a little bit of a bump in the body there. If I had a full, I should have probably just tossed that yarn piece and just got a full one. But I don't like wasting material. It's still gonna fish just fine. Okay, so let's get some. I'm actually almost eating through my white here. I'm getting into the brown. You can kind of see it showing through. So on this side, anyway. It is a problem when you run into a beautiful tail. It's not going to last forever. I don't need a whole lot. Like we're just doing. It's a pretty sparse wing on this one, so maybe about half as much as I did on the fly yesterday. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, Rob. That's that's how the vast majority of fly tyers learned in history, right? We didn't have YouTube. The books were very limited. Yeah, he's a different kettle of fish, that guy. He eats, sleeps, and breathes feathers. And I don't think if he wasn't as passionate, I'll use the word passionate, about fly tying feathers, we wouldn't have capes like we do now. Like it's pretty much all on him for those long genetic capes. Like if he wasn't doing years and years of work, and thankfully with chickens, you can do generations of work in one generation of human, right? So otherwise we would have never had that happen at all. So grateful for him for that, but like you said, he's yeah, and I do believe that a lot of people, the classic patterns get a lot of hate, and I can see why. And they pull my heartstrings though, so I like tying them. Wow, we got a lot of fluff in this one. I'm getting closer to the bottom of the tail there, so it's got a lot more under fur in it. Like a lot more. Here. It's gonna take me a second to clean this out, guys. Sorry. But yeah, with classics, like just being brutally honest without being rude to any of the original tires or anything, but like if you look at the flies, and I mean they were working with what they had, but if you pull up some like real classic books from like the 1900s or 1910, 1920, that kind of area, the flies didn't look that good. Like they have a classic appeal to them, but a lot of them are the same kind of 5 or 6 techniques done over and over again with slight variations in color or material. And I mean, they didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have now. Like they didn't have like ribbon style thread that'll flatten out like a GSP. They didn't have any real synthetics then. So if you wanted like a shiny tin, um, they didn't have Mylar, so if you wanted like a shiny tin wrap like this one, you literally had to have tin on it. So they had a lot of things to overcome as well. But there wasn't like the difference between tying then and now is we have a lot more education and a lot more do this, don't do that, for the better or worse, than we did then. I'm sorry, there's just a gob of underfur in this thing. It's taking me a while to get it all out. That is way too thick. Look how thick that is. And that's the part I want. The butt section is just like, holy, it's like a broom. All right, I'm gonna stack this. I'm gonna try to stack this. I can tell there's still lots in there. There has to be. It's like ridiculously thick. Okay. Sorry, I got off track of my little ramble there. Oh, that's all good. Yeah, sure. I'll have the VOD up like always. Feel free to throw a comment on when you finish watching it. Thanks for stopping in, though. Thoroughly appreciate it. You're always welcome to hang out with us in the morning. Yeah, not trying to throw shade on the original historic tires, because obviously I'm passionate about that. But techniques have grown and expanded a lot with the sharing of knowledge. And I guess that's more my point. But we also have like a lot more to work with than what they had then, right? Like we have lots of synthetics, we have like actual hooks. You know, back then they used blind eye hooks, right? That didn't even have an eye on the end. They'd have to tie on a piece of gut material. So it's interesting, like I think it's a good idea to follow the historic tying and a lot of vintage and historic patterns. Because one, they worked, right? People caught fish on them. So the fish don't change. They'll still catch fish. And the benefit of tying these older patterns is it teaches you to make do with kind of the material that you have at hand. Because for every problem that you have with a classic or vintage pattern, there's a modern solution because someone's come up with that solution at this point. And especially for a new tire starting out, wow, that's stacked like way better than I was expecting it to. For it being so ugly. That's stacked incredibly well. But yeah, the classic pattern's a nice thing about them, like this one here. Like this one's coming on close to 100 years old now. A lot of these patterns are great for new tires because not only are they somewhat simpler than a lot of the more modern patterns, um, but the materials that you can use to tie these flies you can pick up almost anywhere. I mean, this is just regular white rooster. You can get that any day of the week, super cheap, and you can dye it red with Kool-Aid if you wanted to. Red wool yarn. I mean, you can pick that up at any thrift store. You can get it at any craft store. Mylar, Tinsel. Um, you know, it's $1.50 for like 2,000 strands, right? Almost nothing. Now the Hackle material, yeah, that's a little bit more on the you need it kind of fly tying style size. But again, like I went over, you could use several different types of bird to create that kind of hackle. And one pheasant skin, I think you can buy one pheasant, get the whole skin, and you can tie hundreds, if not thousands, of different flies with that one skin. So on this one has a shorter wing. It has it back just to the butt, or the last one we tied yesterday had it to the tail. So that's a slight difference on this one. I am going to part this hackle, not that it's necessary because it looks like it's doing it on its own, but I am just going to part that hackle a little bit just to keep it out of our way. There we go. But yeah, like all the materials that you use for classic flies, generally speaking, if you hunt around enough, you can find 90% of them in pretty much any thrift store. So that's really cool for a new tire. I think it was, yep, you're a good little stacker. Way to go. You get a gold star. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this to sit just right. But yeah, so I think like I think it was Rob was saying there that they need to practice the classics, and I would agree with that. I really think that practicing the classics will give you a lot, like all the skills you need to tie like hundreds of basic flies. And then once you got those down, then move on to some of the more modern stuff like the foam and the parachute wings and things like that. Because that's a different set of skills. And everything you learn from classic fly tying, you can directly put towards catching fish. So they all work then, they'll work now. Well, it looks like I caught one strand in there. That's unfortunate. I feel like this slipped on me a bit, so we might have to redo this. It feels like it twisted quite a bit. Hey Valhalla, good to have you in, mate. Let me fight with my deer hair here and I'll be right with you. Okay, moment of truth. Bye-bye. It did slide ahead on me a bit, but I think I can make that work. Let's throw some more wraps on that. You can see I'm not going to be burying the eye. I got enough room. That's cutting it a bit close, though. I think I can make that work, though. And I am going to lose a bunch of fuzz out of here just because there was so much on this. Well, I hope you get like a good dump, because you guys needed more moisture there, didn't you? It's annoying when it all comes at once and you gotta spend like 3 days shoveling the stupid stuff, but other than that. Yeah, what I should have done there, that, a couple things I should have done to prevent that from happening is I should have cut this ahead of time and then put my thread halfway through like you've seen me do before in the middle of the clump, and then tied down the middle clump and then done the second spin around, and that would have prevented that from happening. I could have also done a much better thread base underneath because it was quite angled. Excuse me. But yeah, if you get some more snow and it helps your water levels, and your deer will do better, everything does better, right? Okay, I'm just thinking how I want to attack this. I think I'm better off to make it work and solve the problem that I created. So we'll go with that. We'll see. Oh my god, camera, what is wrong with you today? I apologize. I think maybe this might be a bad USB cable. I'm gonna switch it here. Just give me a second. We'll just move back to old faithful USB cable. Okay. Should be coming back in a second here, guys. Apologize for that. Stupid cable. Stupid cable. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm going to build thread from, so what we're going to do, it's going to be a little messy, but we're going to build thread from here. I'm going to try and keep that thread where it is. I think it's slid down as much as it's going to slide. I'm going to put some rosin on here to keep it sticky, and then we're going to build our thread back to about here. And that should bind it in place enough, and I'm pretty sure I got enough room here to cut this off and not having too much of a step up front. Not ideal, but I think we can manage and get that done. Just need to get my rosin. Other option would be to untie it and just do it over again, make a better base. Ooh, well, that was not. Okay, well, I guess at this point we may as well start over. That's not cool. Come on, man. Yeah, the fly didn't spin around, the hair did. Yeah, would have been good if it, I really thought I had that tied in a little better than that. Clearly I did not. So let's start over and fix this proper. I was not expecting that to happen. I really thought I had that in there well enough. Okay, 2 seconds. Let's fix this up so this doesn't happen twice. That's okay though, that's exactly what we're here for, right? Trying to overcome obstacles and problems, and it helps everyone out. If I tied a perfect fly every time, it'd be kind of a boring, Yeah, I know. And I thought they were pretty tight. Well, tight enough anyway. And it just went bloop. So clearly didn't have it in there like I thought it did. But it shows you sometimes, like, you'll get things where you're pretty sure you have it and you don't. I'm just cleaning up a few pieces here, but nothing crazy. But yeah, like I said, I think I had a good at least 6 to 8 wraps on that. It really should have stood put. But so what we're gonna do, as you can see, hopefully you can see, if I get my hand behind it so it's a little bit lighter color. You can see I got a pretty good ridge step on there. Normally, right where my thread is right now is where I want to tie it in, and that didn't happen. So what happened is I was trying to tie it in up here. Yeah, it's like, nope, not gonna do that today. No, it's not happening. Not gonna behave myself. So I was trying to tie it in up here, and where my thread actually hit was here, and there's a good steep slope right there, which is fine. I want that slope there a bit so I can get a nice head shape. If I do this square all the way up to here, which is what I'm going to do now, then we're going to end up with more of a square and not so much a bulbous head. But we're going to have to make some concessions with our head shape so I can get this not to do that again. So now I'm going to add some thread to the front of this cone. I have to extend the cone a little bit so our thread doesn't jump and skip over. So I want to create a flat ledge, about 3 or 4 thread widths on top there. So this one's a little bit bigger and more exaggerated just because 1, we had a problem, and 2, I want to be easier for you guys to see. So I got a whole bodkin width, which really is more than you need, of a nice flat thread base there. So I want my thread to land right there and to bind down right there. And it's more important to, because when your thread slips like it did, it's not just slipping like you'll notice it slipping on the fur because it's white and you can see it easier. But you'll notice that, like you said, you can see the thread sliding forward, and you'll see it sliding on the top, but it's also sliding on the bottom. In order for the thread to move that much, it needs to slide in both locations. So if you create a flat spot here, you also want to have a flat spot or flat-ish spot down here. And I can feel there's a little bit of a nub there, so I might actually have to fix that. Well, it's a reverse nub, so that might actually be my benefit. But yeah, you want a bodkin width or less, depending on how practice you get with it. So you have a flat spot so the thread can bind down, and the bottom part where your bottom thread wrap goes is just as important as where your top wrap goes, because that's your anchor point. Your tension that gets wrapped around your material, the tension is being pulled from down here. So this is almost acting like a pulley or a lever in essence to create that tension around your material. And if this part here is not able to get a grip and cause that tension to go evenly around your material, then it's going to act like a slide, and it's going to slide forward. And that's exactly what happened there, unfortunately. I thought I had it good enough, but clearly nope, didn't do that right. And a good part of tying is to know these things ahead of time, and then to try to know where that limit is, right? So you want to know, okay, I know I can make my slope about that amount, or I know I can get away with this or that. Because in a lot of cases you want to kind of push that boundary with each fly, or at least know where that boundary is that you can push. In that case, I thought I had it. I thought everything was okay enough. There, so I'm adding rosin there to make it a bit stickier. And I'm going to add some rosin to my thread. Give me some extra stick. And this whole prep thing is a little bit overkill, but hopefully we'll see that we have a good outcome at the end, which is really what we're shooting for anyway. Alright, and another important thing is to start your thread where you want it to end. So when you're tying this in, you're tying in any material, really doesn't have to be a wing. When you're tying the material in, you want your thread to be sitting right where you want it to, where the binding to end. So I wouldn't want to put my wing on top and have my thread down here by the eye and then try and loop it around. Exactly, yeah. And it's like, there isn't like much of a difference between here and here for that taper. Like it's like, what, 1/2 millimeter maybe? But once you add that 1/2 millimeter over 6 wraps, that becomes like, 3 millimeters, which is a lot for like the distance wrapped around the fly. That's why it gets so loose that it literally can just spin. Alright, anyway, I'm kind of yabbering a lot about that, so I'll stop and I'll get this going. But yeah, it's like, it's like Bob Ross said, happy accidents, right? If I don't have any problems with my fly tying, then we don't get to learn together, because everything's perfect, and that would be very boring. But that's never going to happen, so that's the nice thing about this hobby, is I always have some sort of weird challenge crop up. My wing isn't as nicely stacked as it was, because it's been all knocked over the place, but we'll make do with what it's got. Okay, so in this case, I know I got my length right there, so I'm going to transfer it to my other hand, keeping the vertical that I want, and now I'm going to cut that off. I don't need it anyway, it's just getting in my way. So, I'm going to try and do a nice clean cut. Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that's kind of my point with the comment about like knowing where the limit is, because you could use resin on every single fly you tie, whether you need it or not, and you would not run into that problem because you'd always have resin on it. But then you're just overdoing everything, right? Just like you could put a half hitch after every material you tie in, and it would never come undone because you have gobs of half hitches on the fly. But then you'd never really get good at tying your material in. So you can be a little overproductive too, I guess would be my point. But it's good to know, like, that material just didn't feel quite right tying it in. I should throw a half hitch after it. You know, things like that. Okay, so now we're going to tie this in. I'm going to do like said I should have done before. I'm going to take this and cut this material in half-ish. Just like that. This is all soft wrap, so I'm not putting any tension on it. Yeah, and that went a little bit, again, too far ahead. Trying to avoid grabbing the hackle. There we go. Why was it grabbing the hackle? Stop it. There we go. Okay, so again, when I come around, I want to make sure that that thread, I'm not sure you guys can see it, but the thread's on the bottom, the same place I started at the top. There we go, and the second wrap is perfectly right on top. That's what I want to see. I ran out of thread, so I'm going to have to put a little tension on this, which I didn't want to do. That's okay. So I want to get about 4 wraps on that, and then just bind down on it real tight. And that's going to stop it from moving. Excuse me. There we go. So, yeah, it still slid ahead a little bit on me, but not nearly as much as it did the first time. And it's in there. Oop. I pulled on it a little too hard and pulled a few fibers out from the middle, but it's not going anywhere. Okay. Hey, Ethan's Lures, good job, mate. Good to have you in. Val is jumping for some stars. Okay. Sorry, that was a complete little sidetrack there, but we got it in. I was hoping that my cutoff would have actually ended a little back a bit, so I'm going to have to clean that up. That's why I was pulling back on it, hopefully to get it to sit back a hair, but that's not going to happen. I'm just going to thin this out a little bit before I tie it right down, because we got a little much in there. Okay. I'm going to try and clean this up a bit here. I can spawn you another star in a sec here, mate, no worries. Hey, thanks for subscribing, Canadian Life. Hopefully you don't mind me messing up my flies. But yeah, that's a nice wing. Now we got a nice shape. I'm going to have a slightly bulkier head here than what I wanted to, like I said, because I built up that bottom, so that was the downside of having to do that. So now what I need to do is I need to bury that cutoff. And it's a really common tendency for people to want to bury the cutoff from here forward, you know, like continue your wraps. But if you do that, they're going to continually slide forward and they're all just going to slowly fall off and it'll drive you nuts. So don't do that. You want to build your head up from here back towards your wraps here and then on top of it after. Because even though these are tight, they're not nearly as tight as they're going to loosen up. These wraps here are going to get really loose once you start binding from here back. So that's why you need to over wrap these when you're finishing your head up. Alright, so I'm just gonna grab this all back just so I'm not fighting with it. Actually, I'm gonna hit that up with a Sharpie. And this would also be a great time to throw a little bit of head cement on it, but I can't really do both, and I want to do the Sharpie, so if you do both, it will kind of drag the Sharpie color up into the rest of the white wing, or it has a tendency to do that, because it's alcohol-based marker and the blah blah blah, the acetone in the head cement will dissolve the marker and pull it up into the hair. So I'll skip that part, and we'll just go with the classic wrapping it down. But you can see there, just the marker just gets rid of all those white ends, so there's a lot less chance of that poking through the thread and causing an ugly spot. So we're going to build up our thread dam here, moving back, and I'm just going to slowly, I need to build up quite a thread dam because that's going to be a good jump like we were talking about. There we go, now I'm starting to get up to the height where it's going to start catching. There we go. So you want to build it opposite of what your brain tells you should be doing. Because as I'm binding that down, yeah, you could. Yeah, if you had time, like sit here, finish your tee up, you know. Talk about how awesome Rob's new fly tying kit is. Once the permanent marker sets, the acetone won't suck it up that bad. It's just when the permanent marker's fresh, it really flows with the head cement. So there we go. We got roughly the kind of head shape that I was looking for there, but you can see it's a little flatter than what I normally like to go. I like to have that almost football kind of bulbous look, and that's almost 100% personal preference. Oh, here, let me spawn some more stars for you, mate. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Here, Valhalla, fetch. There we go. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how that turned out. It was fun to actually overcome those little obstacles. There you go. Sorry, I just got a hair fuzz in my eyeball. Okay, let's get the half hitch on here. And doing things like that, especially if you're getting into more production tying, or you just want to tie up like a dozen of something for yourself, that's where the consistency in your tying really comes in. It's just your thread lands in the same spot with the same tension, you know, every time you tie the same fly. And a lot of people, that's kind of like what they consider, air quotes, like professional tying, right? Yeah, it looks like a lot of people got snow yesterday. We didn't get the moisture, we got the cold though, that's for sure. A lot of times once it gets closer to -20, we don't get any snow anyway, because it's just too cold for the moisture to be in the air. Okay, there, that's nice and tight. There you go. Okay, so we're gonna pop this off. Bloop. there. I'm actually quite happy with that one, how it turned out. There's a few kind of wispy hair stacks there, but you know, overall that's a pretty fly. I'm happy with that one. Just gonna kind of fix its hackle up a little bit here. Yeah, it's fun to go through different techniques to fix problems, because when I was a new tyer and I ran into problems like that, a lot of times I'd just be like, what do I do? You know, oh, it's ruined now. You know, like I can't count how many times I ran into stuff where I just couldn't wrap my head around a solution. And like anyone can follow a pattern, but I think the ability to overcome like little obstacles like that is a big part of our hobby. At least I think so. Because we're all going to run into it. It doesn't matter how many thousands of flies you tie, you're always going to run into an issue here or there. Your thread snapping. Like Rob was telling us a story about him tying in the class and having his thread snap, you know, which happens to everyone. But having to overcome that and try and speed up to keep up with the class, you know, that can add a whole level of frustration like he was talking about. So the more you get used to fixing those problems, you can lower your frustration level with the inevitable problems of the hobby and enjoy it more. We're going to throw some head cement on there now. And I got more than enough wraps on there to keep the... I've been pretty good so far the last like couple weeks here, but I don't know why in the summer I was snapping thread like no one's business. Yeah, it happens to all of us, mate. Yeah. I do find if I'm tying a lot faster, like if I'm trying to get a production down where I need to get 12 of a certain fly done. Oh, don't worry, Ethan. Thanks for copping in, mate. Good point, Rob. And an important point too, not just for the classroom, like Rob was in that scenario we were talking about with him breaking the thread there. Hopefully you don't mind me using that as an example, Rob, but yeah, it's a good example because it happens to everyone. But I'm sure as soon as, and we've all been there, so we can all relate to this, but as soon as Rob broke that thread, and he's, you know, that stress builds up, and that worry, you know, starts filling in, creeping in around the edges that you're getting behind, and you got to go faster, and then you make more mistakes, and then it's hard for you to absorb, you know, the actual class and what's going on, and you're rushing trying to catch up to that next step that everyone else is on in front of you. And my overarching point is that level of stress that creeps in is not only does it take the enjoyment out of it a bit, but it also makes it hard to learn. So especially if you're in a class environment or you're just by yourself trying to learn, that slight stress that creeps up, you know, it can be really hard to beat it back down so you can get into, you know, the right frame of mind to just enjoy what you're doing. But I totally understand, especially in a class environment, you're trying to keep up with everyone. Like there's a lot of outside circumstance there that's causing you to have that stress impact you more than if you're just sitting alone in your own room, right? But we've all been there. Like you don't necessarily have to have an audience to be stressed about something, right? It took me a long time, especially doing these lives, to be like comfortable with making mistakes, because like when I first started doing these, and it's like my thread would break, I'd be like, oh no, I look like a newbie. What am I doing? You know, and it was like, it was stressful. But I'm getting much better at it now. I think it's going to be a constant thing to get over, but I'm pretty low key anyway, so. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, there's definitely times where it was like, oh, really? Why now? So we all are in that same boat, mate. And the more little tips and tricks and stuff we can learn, get our fly tying a little more on point, the more we can enjoy it. Okay, I'm gonna do my spin and spiel for this guy. But yeah, what do you guys think about doing like a kind of marathon day where I'm here for a good 8 hours? And we can do some more, well, not necessarily fun stuff, but I can do a lot of other things like just tying random flies or taking requests or things like that, because I'll have time to get material and everything. Yeah, that's a good point, Maddie. Yeah, no, that's true. Like a Nike. Okay, I'm gonna shut my audio down here and do my spin and spiel. That's a good saying, I guess. Oh, I like that. And today in the vise we have a Luven Fluorescent. This is tied on a size 4 salmon hook. You can tie it from a 2 all the way up to a small 12 if you wanted to. This is a pretty classic fly. It was developed by Harry Van Luven about 60 years ago, or maybe a bit more than that, because my book's a bit older. The fluorescent version was requested by E.H. Hurley, and it was especially good in like rolly water where you have a lot of riffles and a lot of movement. It has a nice chartreuse red tail from rooster, a wool red body wrapped up with mylar tinsel, a nice saddle hackle in the front, and an overwing of deer bucktail. Nice bulbous black head. It's a really classic fly, related to the one we tied yesterday, which was the Thor. This is just a fluorescent version of the same fly in essence, with a silver wrap on it. A wonderful little salmon steelhead streamer. You should add a couple to your box, eh? Bleh. Tripped on my tongue a little bit there, but that's okay. I'll edit it out. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that guy. He turned out pretty good. He's a pretty little fly. Unfortunately, I work early today. I don't want to. But we're gonna cut off on just the first fly here. We took our time with it. But overall, I'm really happy. I think it's good looking. I'm quite happy with that one. Okay, so if anyone has any comments, yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. Anyone has any comments, concerns, accusations, questions, throw them in the chat there and we'll yabber at them for a bit. I still gotta wait for this head to dry a little more. I wish I didn't have that little lump in the body there, or it would be near perfect. Where I had to tie in that second piece of yarn. You know, for a fishing fly, it's not going to matter. Thanks, Maddie. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I was thinking Nike, man. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen that. Although I'm sure Nike has a trademark on that, so they better be careful. Yeah, it's nothing crazy. It's just a very small little lump in the body, but I was hoping it would, I just didn't want to toss those bits because they were the right, well, I thought they were the right size, apparently they weren't. Okay, well, if you don't have any questions, that's all good, no worries. We had a good time, or I did anyway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed too. Just gonna have the last bit of my tea. Thanks for coming out this morning. I always appreciate it. Nice lazy Sunday. There. Hopefully you guys have a good week. Nice start to your week. And enjoy your Sunday off if you're not working. And Maddie, I hope your little one's doing better, man. It's about time he finally gets around the bend for you. Y'all have a good morning. Thanks for... No worries. I appreciate it. I'll do my shoutouts. We got Valhalla, of course. We got Rob. We got Maddie. Did we have Muddy in today? I don't think we had Muddy in today. We had Ethan's Lures in. We had K-Fish Pro, of course. What else do we have here? Is that everyone? We had a few new people popping in. Oh yeah, we had Ruben. That's right, we had Ruben earlier. I appreciate Ruben stopping in, and I think that's everyone. So you guys have a good morning. Thanks kindly.